Happy April Fools! What's this? An episode outside of our normal release schedule? And it doesn't have a bunch of people playing, it's a collection of solo plays. If you've never played a solo play tabletop role-playing game, give this episode a listen, see what you think. Solo plays are individual, one-person only games where it's you and the rules, and you're off on an adventure. Let's see how our fire-breathing kittens fared in their solo play April Fool's 2024 adventures.
You, Beyond the Pale, as recorded by Nur the Silent. Act 1. Eyes in the Dark. Day 1. There are very few truly abandoned places in Nicomoy, but I have found spaces that are, if not abandoned, at least they are unused much of the time. One of these is a storeroom beneath a bar. The brewery is in the room adjacent, and so the smell of yeast and freshly brewing beer permeates the entire floor. There's a cozy, bready scent to it all, and I know that when a barrel is tipped out, the brewer and her wife turn the lees into a rich, dark brown bread that is hearty and rich and carries that smell with it. I don't need to eat much, and with my unfinished mouth, I can't really taste food the way others do. But the scent, I could write sonnets to that smell of Joanne and Jane's fresh beer bread. In contrast, when I return home, my nose is filled with the odor of formaldehyde, alcohol, and that non-scent of distilled water. In the small cupboard that stores my body, dust trickles my nose and makes me wish I were capable of sleep, of escape. Day 2. Today, I accidentally saw a stranger. A man was walking near the professor's house while I was hauling some waste into the yard. I hid behind a pile of scrap metal and observed him. He wore a color I'm unfamiliar with, like blue, but warmer, and he carried a tool made of wood and strings. He stopped on the corner near the house and placed his hat on the ground, and then he used that tool of his to make such noises. They were dissonant, then pleasing. They rang in my ears like birdsong, and yet they were nothing like birds at all. And later I tried to ask Nightshade about it, and I tried to recreate the sounds the man had made. And Nightshade laughed a bit and told me it was music. "I guess you haven't heard any before," he commented when I seemed overcome by the knowledge. Music? I must know more. That man, he spoke without his mouth. I could not dare. Day 3. There was a child in the house tonight. I don't know why he was there. I'm pretty sure he was a boy child, but I cannot be certain. They all somewhat look alike, and for my part, it doesn't matter much. They are children as unformed as I was when I first awoke, but perhaps more perfect. He was in the upper part of the house where I do not go. There was an adult with him, and the boy was exploring the parlor. There's a vent there that leads to the basement. I can stand on the table and easily watch people inside the parlor from it. So I study them. It's how I learned so much of the words I know. Not all of them. I was formed with words already spilling through my mind, already waiting, eager to speak, and the cruel reality when I realized. But the child I was observing, we will call it, it's a kinder word than spying. He had one arm only. The left sleeve of his shirt and his neat suit jacket was rolled up and stitched in place. I heard vaguely his mother, I think, talking with the professor about remedies that could be performed for a price. The child found the grate of the vent and peered into it, lacing his fingers into the grating. I peered up at him, and our eyes met. "Hello," I said, but of course, is all I uttered, and the boy screamed in fear. I leaped back, stumbling off of the table, crashing into the cart of instruments, gashing my cheek on a scalpel. Scared, I bolted for the cupboard, slamming the door and closing my eyes, as if doing so would close my ears to the sound of terror and crying from upstairs. My eyes did nothing to block the sound, and I rocked silently, waiting for them to leave. Day 4. The child came back. He immediately poked his fingers through the grate, but I was smart this time. I stood in the darkness, watching him, while he confusedly looked for me. The professor put him to sleep with a damp rag of chloroform. It's not very effective on me, dead lungs barely working, she says, so she had me carry the boy's small, limp body down into the laboratory. A sleeping body is different from a dead one. Sleeping, a body still moves, reacts, breathes. It's as if, even in a death-like state, it wants the world to know, I am alive. Do not bury me. Do not dissect me. I live. The boy, in the sleep the professor had given him, is nothing like that. He is like the dead. He does not move. He barely breathes. I have to be careful moving him because if I jostle him too much or bump him into a wall, he will waken later, bruised and sore, like he had taken a tremendous fall, when in reality it is only that I have been clumsy while caring for his soulless self. With the Nightshade's help, the professor gives the boy a new arm. It may function. It may be clumsy. It will not grow, and next year, and every so often thereafter, he will need to return here and pay the professor to do it all again. Do not ask where the arm came from. I prefer not to think of it. While he sleeps, I watch him. He breathes in and out, heavier now. He is no longer under the spell of the professor's surgical drugs, but instead is sedated and calm, taking the pain away. He rustles, and I smell the sharpness of urine. Startled, I look to the bed. His eyes are open, and he meets mine. Cautiously, I hold a hand up. He holds his up, the new one, and the pale color of the previously dead flesh alarms him, and he screams. Day 5. The boy came back several times over a few years. Sometimes he saw me, sometimes he did not. When he was a young man, he deliberately waited after the surgery by the back door that leads to the basement. I'm not afraid of you, he said to me, and I knew he was only telling part of the truth. I held up my slate. Not afraid either. That surprised him. You can write? I nod and wrote, read, too, on the slate. My mouth curled into a smile that I know is terrifying. She never did fix my mouth. He laughed nervously, but I could tell he was less frightened after that. He told me about his arm. The latest version had never really joined correctly, and he was considering having it removed entirely. When I was a child, I just wanted to be whole, complete. But now, he looked around the laboratory, the surgical room. It's so useless. It's almost as if I didn't have it anyway. And I can make art without it, which is all I've ever wanted to do. Look. He gestured to the window, and I reached up, cracked it open, and peered outside. In the tangled heaps of scrap in the backyard stood a bush blooming with roses. It took me a long moment, as my eyes made sense of it, to realize the rosebush was entirely made of metal, each leaf and petal carefully turned and sculpted, each of them each thorn a glinting sharp point. Why thorns? I wrote on the slate. He cracked a smile at that. Because it's real. Why make something and then pretend it isn't real? Doesn't have to protect itself, or it's helpless. I nod and point to his arm. I carefully try to tell him good luck, and I think he understands. He's about to leave when I stop him. Something in me chooses to give him a gift, and I hand over the small book I've been writing in for years. He flips through it, reading my poems, scrawled in charcoal in my big, clumsy letters. You wrote this? He asks, and I nod. You should publish, or tell the world. These are really good. I shrug as if to say to do what he wants, and he takes it for consent. But what name do you go by it? I say my name, and it's garbled. He holds out his left hand, the good one, and says, Nice to meet you, Nug. I'm Adam. After he leaves, I go outside and drag the rosebush sculpture so it's visible from the crack in the wall in my cupboard, the one that lets light in during the day. Even at night, I can see the moonlight glinting off of the thorns. Chapter 2. A Voice in the Wild. Day 6. On a market day, the professor has Nightshade purchase a restock of several barrels of alcohol, which were delivered on a sunny afternoon. I'm good at hauling and carrying things, and Nightshade has me do the carrying tasks since he realized two things. I'm taller than him by 3 feet, and I don't mind at all lifting something heavy and moving it from one place to another. It's solid work, and I can think while I'm doing it. I invent rhymes and poetry while I work. The farmer has a funny hat. His ears stand out like a cat. And other doggerel like that. It's frivolity, but it entertains me. On this day, I invented a rhyme about the alcohol vendor. The market man has no ideation that the barrels of libation he delivers aren't for consumption, but to ward off fleshly corruption. The rot and stink of gangrene eats away at child, man, and teen. Do we know why or what treatment shall save a limb? Solely spirit. Day 7. Today, Dr. Spark was visited by an explorer, an adventurer from the sound of it, someone she's hired to acquire one of the reagents she uses in her research. Dr. Spark is something of a mystery to me. I know she researches and experiments, but I don't know what answers to the world she's seeking. The adventurer came downstairs while Dr. Spark was talking to Nightshade. He wore a shirt made of interlocking rings of metal, a choice I found very curious considering our location inside a city. They seemed to be looking for something. When I heard them on the stairs, I hurried into my cupboard and shut the door. I kept my hand on the doorknob so that if anyone turned it, it wouldn't budge. It would seem locked or stuck. And he did check. He checked all the cupboards and the drawers. He left with nothing that I could see, but I do wonder, what was he looking for? What would he have done if he'd found it? What would he have done if he'd found me? Day 8. Adam has returned, but something is wrong. He's alternately excited by everything and then moody and sad. He changes more than the weather, which is volatile in the best of seasons, but no more so than in spring. But he visits me his second day here. I ask through my slate what brings him to Dr. Spark now, and he explains at length about anatomical study and how he plans to learn from Dr. Spark. Madeline, he calls her. And a distant part of my mind remembers that is her name. But Adam continues, the words spilling out of him like screws when I drop a container of them. I can still see the rose bush he made outside my window, and I point to it, and I write, "Beautiful," on my slate. "Thank you," he snorts. That's... I can see the flaws from here. Look at it now. The petals are thick, clumsy. The thorns are dull. This is the work of an amateur. He pauses. I should destroy it. He jumps up. I write no on my slate and try to get the alarmed word out of my wrecked voice, but it's no use. I close my eyes when I hear the hammer slamming into the metal. When he leaves, there's a fractured rose left amid all of the twisted metal and rubble. The petals are thick and clumsy, and I take the half-broken thing in my own big, clumsy hands, and I vow to myself not to take or break things that other people love. Day 9. The end. By my estimate, I think I've been here with Dr. Spark and Nightshade around 10 years. I know more now than I did when I first woke up in Dr. Spark's surgical theater, and one of the questions I keep asking myself is, am I a person or am I property? Dr. Spark doesn't think I'm a person. She calls me it, or the construct, and she gives me orders like I'm a machine that she's programmed. Much of what she commands are simple fetch and carry tasks, and I wonder why she bothered giving me a brain if she didn't want me to use it. And then sometimes I wonder if she realizes I have a brain. She's never asked me anything about myself. I've never shown her my writing either. She knows I can write from the short sentences and questions I put on the slate, but is it possible she's simply ignorant about the inner life I live, the thoughts and dreams I have, the private self that truly belongs only to myself? I went to the market to buy fish oil. She uses it for the machinery and nothing else. She doesn't realize I take so long at the market because I stop to listen to the street musicians and panhandlers. I fill my ears with their music, the music of the people and of people who have nothing but themselves. But even that is more than I have. The fish oil is messy, and today, not wanting to further stain my clothes, I roll up my sleeves and take off my suit coat. Oi, you one of them fire kittens then? I look blankly at the fish seller and say, what? But of course it comes out a garbled mess. The vendor points at my left forearm. Your tattoo, he says. I peer at the design in my skin. Tattoo. I've seen this design before, but I didn't realize a tattoo was something you just had. I look back at the man. At the fire-breathing kittens market is. The Guildhall is just down the street and up the Crown's way a bit. You sure you not heard of 'em? I shake my head no and finish loading the fish oil. I bring it home, thinking about this Guildhall. A place for other kittens. I'm not a cat. What does it mean? I can't ask anyone here. Spark would restrict my movements, and Nightshade might tell Spark. So I wait. The next time I go to the market, this time for vegetables, I walk past the Guildhall very casually, like I'm supposed to be there. The Guildhall is a pub. I can hear the chatter of voices from the street. A crumpled adventurer lounges against the wall outside, sipping from a flask. It's a place of drunkenness. I probably want nothing to do with this place. I go inside, making sure my sleeve is fully down. A young woman with a crossbow leaning against her chair is playing checkers with a well-dressed man with pointy ears, 2 finely curved horns, and a tail. All around, I see people in various forms of adventuring gear and attire, laughing playfully with each other, some peering at a large bulletin board. Walk over and read the bills posted there. They're jobs. Small jobs, some large. They're all kinds of work, from simple work like picking up delivery to solve a universe-spanning equation and please don't forget the custard. A very short fellow, shorter even than Nightshade, appears by my kneecap. "No use, lad," he squeaks at me. "Can't read 'em without me special tattoo." I look down at the figure and hold my hand to my chest and try to say my name. Nook, is it? Close enough, I think. He holds his hand out to me. "Nulisag, this here's my guild, the fire-breathing kittens. If you've got a job..." The words die on his lips as I hold up my arm and pull the sleeve up. He looks at my arm and the ancient tattoo there. He looks at my face. It's obvious what I am, what kind of creature I am. A crafted thing, not a living person. Nulisag thinks for a moment, then nods. "All right, then. Guess I'd better start your orientation."
Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Fire Breathing Kittens, an actual play podcast. Today, I will be playing a solo RPG. It's called Artefact by Mousehole Press, and that is Artefact spelled Ratefact. This game is about creating the story of magical or important items. This game has a series of different items to choose from, or item types, I should say. And the point of the game is to create memories with this item as it passes through the hands of different keepers. So let's jump right into it. Of all the item types, I'm choosing the item, the ornament. You were crafted from the rarest gems and metals by a master artificer. Describe them, their materials, and their fateful forge. Well, I do like pendants quite a lot. So I'm going to say that this is a lion head pendant. It's made of gold, and the eyes are bright red rubies. There's an open mouth as though the lion is roaring, and the fangs in the mouth are made of small little diamonds. The most impressive part of the pendant, though, is that the mane of the lion is worked in thin gold filigree, such that they look like radiating rays from the sun. Well, now that I've got my description, I need to add 3 traits describing my item. I would say courageous, for sure. Proud, definitely. And loyal. Well, with that all set up, now it's time to go to the first act of this game, where we meet our first keeper. So it looks like the first act is called Newly Forged, and there's a series of steps you go through for each act. Step 1 is describe the keeper and how they come to acquire me, the lion pendant. And then answer the keeper's questions. So there's like folk hero for keeper, or young noble, or rogue without master, or revolutionary leader. And each of these has 2 bullet points under it that's like describe where they're from, and then like how are you used by this keeper. And then after doing that, we choose an option from a couple of tables that are noted, and it has to do with answering questions or picking another trait. So it looks like these questions are really trying to get you to think a little creatively and create stories for each of these keepers. After choosing from the table, I answer an artifact question, which is listed on the actual item section. So there are like specific questions for ornaments. There are also different questions for like weapon or shield or shoes or something. Then after that, consider how the keeper loses you, and then move time to wait for a new keeper. And there's actually there are different time options that last different amounts of time. And theoretically, you're supposed to go up to 10 minutes, but I think I'm going to keep it to 5 just to make it short. So like all of the time at rest when you're waiting between keepers should equal up to 10 minutes, but we'll say it's 5. Okay, very first keeper then. I would definitely say the first keeper would have to be a young noble. Describe the family that they're descended from. Their family is old, but dying. They've made a few bad bets in how to manage their land and who to side with politically, such that in the last decade or so, the heads of the family have actually managed to lose most of the esteem and wealth. Let's say this family's name is Tuller. So the Tuller family is not doing very well. However, the heir to the Tuller name, a young woman, but quite socially adept. She knows how to maneuver politically very well. She uses her family's poor reputation, or I should say her family's poorer status, to her advantage, making it seem as though she's not a threat and pulling strings with other families within the political sphere. She wears this lion pendant proudly. It's the sigil of the Tullers, and she had it made with what little riches her family had left as a statement piece, a way of telling herself and communicating to others that she is strong and the Tuller name is strong. How were you used in the nobles' cutthroat politics? I think it was used primarily as a symbol. It didn't really give her any power other than the power that social perceptions gave her. She projected her own image and made that image real. And because she believed in that strength, other nobles soon did as well. Almost like fake it till you make it, you know? Let's see. Artifact questions. Well, one of them here is, you are immortal. You do not grow old. What preoccupation of the keeper is most strange to you as one that cannot die? Well, certainly the preoccupation with a name, I suppose. I think this is probably when the artifact realizes that identity is important to its keeper, and that because it's important to her, it's almost like it's being projected onto me, the item. It's still not something that is understandable in the way where it's I don't know, intuitive. It's certainly not an intuitive idea, this idea of identity and meaning something. But it's clearly important to her and is soon projected onto me. And so I begin to develop my own identity, oddly enough. Consider how the keeper loses you. I think she grows old and dies. I think that this Teller heir was able in her time to raise the family name, not back to the prestige it used to have, but certainly in higher esteem. But she never had any heirs of her own. The family just couldn't either produce heirs or find anyone that was worthy of carrying on the family name. And so she died, and there was no one to carry on her legacy. She was buried with me, this fierce lion pendant that totally embodied her and ended up taking on her own pride and sense of self. And so I was hung around her neck, and she was buried in a graveyard. And I rested there for quite some time. Let's say I rest there for a decade, which in the game translates as turning off the lights in whatever room you're in and closing your eyes and just letting your mind wander for 1 minute. So I'm going to go do that. We're going to be truncating the silences, so you won't feel that. But just trust me, it happened. All right. My first rest is done. It's been 10 years since I've been buried with the last of the Tellers. I think the next keeper would be a rogue without master. It's been a decade since the last of the Tellers' death, and it's somewhat surprising to see how much society has changed. There's discord. The political situation has only deteriorated. More families are finding themselves unable to financially maintain their status or politically maintain their status. And so the respect and honor that the name of nobility might have once had no longer really holds that kind of sway. And there's a rogue who knows that there are particular ways to pick a mausoleum lock. And he does so. He picks the lock to the last of the Tellers, opens the door to the vaulted mausoleum, and robs the grave. He definitely takes me, an object of some repute, after the last of the Tellers' valiant efforts to rebuild the family name. Let's see. Answer the keeper's questions. What marks the rogue as a soul unburdened by servitude? I think pure rebellion, especially given the deterioration of current politics and high society. I think they've seen that nobility is the same as them. Why should they serve someone who really is only their superior because they have more money than they do? Might as well just go and get money for himself. Be his own person. How did I help them pull off their boldest stunt yet? Well, I am so well affiliated and associated with the Teller name that as he begins to wear me around his neck, people actually assume that he's the lost heir of the Teller family name. he doesn't really get a whole lot of wealth or riches or social status, but it's more than he used to have. And so he starts to pass himself off as a Tuller, and he gains some notoriety. He uses some of this wealth that he gains and gives it to other people. Granted, I think there are some people who definitely know he's not a Tuller. Like maybe there's someone from another noble family who's helping him do this and is kind of in the know about this because they actually want to change how things are done. They see that the current system is breaking, and so they're just adding fuel to the fire and upending the current political structure. Okay. So now I have to choose an option from a table, and I'm going to say, powerful magic has a toll. You corrupted your keeper, causing malaise, sickness, and eventually death. Was this ruination intentional? Definitely it was intentional. I am imbued with the pride of the Tuller family, and to know that I was being used by this fraud for personal gain, even if it was to change things in society or to make things better for some people, it's inherently dishonest and it shames the family name. I wouldn't stand for that. And I think this is where the latent magic that has come from, I think, just being loved, but also the symbol of strength and pride of my previous owner, my first keeper, would have given me some magic. And let's say it's a magical aura. I'd say that someone who wears me, let's say it's like, it imbues people with a charisma that just exudes courage, pride, and loyalty. It exudes leadership and trust. Like, people who look at those who wear me trust them and kind of give them their respect. Now, how would this corrupt my current keeper? Well, I think if someone who isn't worthy of that is wearing me, the opposite would actually happen, because I wouldn't really be compatible with somebody who didn't also embody those traits, who I didn't resonate with. And so, because this rogue is using me for his own gain and to lie and to hide and to cheat, I think he begins to have this aura of shadiness, for lack of a better word. It's like over time, people just start to distrust him. They start to question everything he does. And that ends up leading to at least his ruination. The farce of him being a Tuller heir is found out. And because of that, he is probably executed. I think it'd probably be bad to steal a royal's identity of any kind of aristocrat's identity. Okay, now it's time to answer an artifact question. Well, how do you come to think of your keepers as possessive magpies, compliant marionettes, or something else? Definitely as unworthy. At least this one is unworthy. I'd say probably this rogue cements in me the virtue of the first keeper, the last of the Tullers. This rogue, and maybe anyone afterwards, is not going to it's going to be an uphill battle, proving that you're worthy enough to wear me and possess me and have that great aura of leadership. Consider how the keeper loses you. Definitely is just like taken from him by an authority and then like put, I don't know, probably just put in storage somewhere. And I think it probably rests in storage for a year before moving to Act 2, Keepers, a time of glory. The time before was newly forged, and now I'm in a time of glory. Let's see. Describe the keeper and my acquisition. So there's a righteous champion, an all-conquering warlord, abandoned king, and a monster hunter. How very interesting. I think this probably goes to a righteous champion. If we're going along the lines of civil unrest and upending of current society, there's probably fighting that has broken out, and this leader, this champion, is trying to, I'd say, restore order. So maybe because other nobles aren't able to do so, this champion takes it into their own hands to reestablish the power of the nobility. And that's probably through military might. So let's see. Their questions are: describe their religious order goals, and how did you help them complete an epic quest? Well, certainly their religious order goals, I don't know if I'd necessarily say they're religious, but they definitely favor order. They favor society and the status quo. And I think that they actually see the past as something grand, something beautiful, and something to be aspired to. You know, we've lost the values that this nation or this group of nobles used to have, where they weren't all consumed with politics just for themselves. They were doing it to help people. You know, it's like, the world always needs order, and people want to be led, and they want security. And it was supposed to be the nobles' jobs to provide all of that so that the people who served them would be able to live their lives more freely. And now that the nobility has kind of fallen apart, so has social order. And so this righteous champion, their goal is to restore that order and reestablish that kind of society. And because this person, they found me in the storage area of, I don't know, maybe like some sort of central governance building, and they recognized me for what I was. They had heard stories of the last of the Tullers. It was always told as a tragedy, but I was always a centerpiece of it. And as soon as he saw me, he realized what I was. And so they ended up donning me and using me as something of a symbol, much like the last of the Tullers did. I think I would have found them worthy, given their goal, given that they wanted to do right by nobility and to reestablish power, to reestablish status. Because that's exactly the goal that the last of the Tullers had when I was made. So I would say that despite the bad reputation, or, you know, the pretty terrible former keeper, the rogue, I think they would actually have a pretty a better time of being my keeper. Yeah, I'd say my magic would work positively for them too. Just imbue them with even more of that like leader charisma. Give them a lot of strength, inspire loyalty. I think that would definitely be something I would do for them. Okay, time to choose from the table. I'm definitely going to choose from the victories and valor table. Okay. A long-standing feud between two prominent factions was resolved. How did you help your keeper convince the fractious leaders to come to the negotiating table? I think it was by force of charisma and actually also by strength. I think this righteous champion has enough sway at this point to where they are starting to corral the fractious nobility and the families that remain, and are also able to keep the non-nobles, the common people, at bay long enough to get the two most prominent nobles at the negotiation table and basically get them to agree to a particular system of governance and rule. I think he ends up helping draft this new set of governments, kind of like the Magna Carta, sort of, or like, the Constitution for the United States. But he helps them make this and enacts it and brings it to the people. And the reason he's able to do this so successfully is because I'm giving them this aura, and I believe that they're worthy. And because it's almost like a feedback loop, if I'm helping them believe that they're worthy, then they are even prouder and are using that for their own purposes and to shore up their own strength. And that makes me proud. And so I give even more like aura and stuff. Like, it's a feedback loop. And so I think I would definitely gain an additional trait. I already have proud. I probably think I'm like a good judge of character. I don't know if I actually would be, but I definitely think that I'm a good judge of character. Okay, artifact question. Over time, you gain a name or honorific. What is it and why? I'm not really good with this sort of thing. Part of me wants to do like King Raiser, or I don't know, like Nobility Chooser. That all sounds really dumb. Like, I need a name that's something around like, it brings you glory, Glory Chaser. Oh, you know what? It's simple. I'll just be called from this moment on the Lion's Glory. And so I'm not just the pendant of the last of the Tullers. I am Lion's Glory. Just because I'm in the shape of a lion, but also I bring glory to those I deem worthy. And they often rise in status quite significantly. But then time passes, as it always does. The champion ends up pulling kind of a Napoleon and becomes king of this new society, or perhaps old society. And things are going well under his rule. But then they die, and their heir takes over. And I'm going to say that's going to be my next keeper. So my time of rest is actually only for a month. I'd say the champion's heir, the champion gets sick actually, and is no longer able to wear me. And then about a month after he takes me off, he ends up dying, and I am actually part of the coronation of his heir, who is their daughter. She's now the queen of this new nation, and I'm going to say she is an all-conquering warlord. They are feared and adored in equal measures. Let's see, answer the keeper questions. Describe their empire and the armies they rule it with. How did you help them establish their mighty dominion? Well, I'd definitely be inclined to help her, as she is the daughter of the champion. I've watched her grow. I've watched her learn and become this leader. And so when she dons me, I think I can tell that there is already more ambition. Not that the champion wasn't ambitious and that the last of the Tullers wasn't ambitious. They both were. But she has a hunger that they didn't have. A yearning that almost can't be fulfilled, in that she wants to continue amassing power so that chaos never reigns again. And so she starts to build this empire. She establishes, I'd say, the first central military. You know, all of these nobles that are ruling kind of had their own little kingdoms or plots of land that they ruled over and protected. But now she's centralizing things, especially centralizing warriors, and is having them basically become her force and unifying these people around that. And she doesn't have too much desire to go beyond their lands. What she really wants is to make this society as strong and secure as possible so that it doesn't ever break down again. I think seeing that, I would also, I was I was made in part to establish the system. I'd say anything in the benefit of the status quo and of society as it currently is, as long as it maintains like the status of nobility and gives my keeper more power, I'd totally be for it. And so I also give her this aura of strength and leadership, but it definitely takes on much more of a warrior strength, not really a leader strength. Like, she is a fighter. She will tear you down if you pose any risk to her rule or to her kingdom. Or if you don't want a kingdom, she will, I don't know, just kill you or something. Okay, choosing from a table again. Ooh, your keeper uncovered an insidious conspiracy in their people's ruling class. Oh, with your help, they exposed the devious scheme. What was the price for speaking truth to power? She definitely would have found rebellion in like other court nobles and in advisors. I think it's pretty understandable that people in the nobility would want to maintain their own independent lands, because that's really the only kind of power they have left. If they're unified, then they don't actually get to control too much in their own lands. They have to cede to whatever the queen or the ruler demands of them, whether that's like giving more resources or, changing how much you pay somebody, if you pay them at all, that sort of stuff. So I think that people, especially in the beginning, would have been really unhappy with her unifying motivations. And especially with the way she was going about that violently, and by conscripting their own warriors to be part of this army. Like, it's all too much too fast. And so they conspire to overthrow her by combining their militaries and going against what she already has. But during a small meeting, the strength of her charisma, the power that I give to her, it kind of becomes more like a fear. Like, people are afraid of her. And so somebody ends up speaking information that they didn't intend to because she intimidated them. Or I should say her presence intimidates them. But once that information slips, she is on them and gets that information. And so she's able to make a very strong demonstration of those nobles who wanted to go against her, and show that she will not tolerate anyone of any ruling class or status going against her. Okay, so this artifact question. You helped your keeper outsmart the brute and take him down for good. Now the story is a popular legend. What major detail do people get wrong in the retelling? Well, it definitely would have been the incident of culling the traitors. That would have gained a lot of fame. Definitely a mixture of fear and adoration. I think there's a mix of people who think that that was the right thing to do, and other people who were concerned about how she treated those in opposition to her. I think the detail they would tend to get wrong is that she offered clemency to them before punishing them. She would never do that. Like, she is unforgiving. Like, she is stubborn and obstinate and always thinks that she's correct, that she has the best ideas, and there's no way she would be merciful to people who crossed her. Like, absolutely not. I would think if I and she overheard, well, she would have a different response. But if I overheard these people saying that, I would just kind of, if I could roll my ruby eyes, I would. Because they clearly don't know her and are projecting onto her. And that's just not who she is. I know who she is. And that's not who she is. I think this keeper is also able to keep me for a long time. Her unification was successful, and there's definitely been a cultural shift. She, I think, did have heirs, but was never satisfied with them. I think she had too many control issues to where she didn't really trust them to do things as well as she did. And so she held on to power to her very last breath and did not prepare her heirs to see this kingdom through. The thing that made her such a good unifier also ended up making her a terrible teacher. So definitely this is not going to be passed on to any of her heirs. I don't think she would have trusted any of them and wouldn't have wanted them to have me. Let's see. Now it's time to rest. If she wouldn't have given me to her heirs, I think she probably would have done the same thing as the last of the tellers and worn me to her grave. So in her own crypt. I'd say I'd probably rest for centuries, for multiple hundreds of years. And I wouldn't be privy to any of the social changes that would have been going on in that time. Because let's be real, if she didn't really teach someone to be a ruler in her image, that kind of society wouldn't have lasted very long, because it takes someone with brute strength, but also a magnetic charisma to hold something like that together. Let's see what happens in the third act. The ruination. Let's see. Our keepers for this era are a pair of treasure seekers, an archivist collector, a doomsday cult, and a foolhardy warrior. Who do I want to choose? I think a pair of treasure seekers. I mean, let's go Grave Robin. Definitely kind of in the same way the rogue did it, but it's it's not that different. As much as the years have passed, all it takes is the right tools and the right skills and the right knowledge to open up a long lost crypt of some ruler who thought she would be remembered and was actually forgotten, because the nation that she established simply didn't last. She didn't set it up for success. And so forgotten, and in some cases despised, her crypt was desecrated and locked away and forgotten. There was such a sting upon her reputation that people didn't even want to rob the crypt. They thought it was cursed. They thought she would come back to kill them because she was that ruthless, even in death. And so her crypt was left alone for the most part. And even for the few who did try to get in, they didn't have the means to do so. They didn't have the knowledge or the skills to make it through the crypt's protective layers. So this pair of treasure seekers describe how they operate despite their mutual distrust. I think they complement each other really well. They bicker and get in fights all the time. But honestly, as long as they split the treasure in half between themselves, I think they can deal with it. They're both in it for the money. They're not really in it for prestige or anything. They just want to get some gold, get some treasure, sell it to the highest bidder, and then be on their way until they need to do it all over again. Which one of them ends up with you, and at what cost? So I think one of them, they both come at the same time and are raiding the crypt, but one of them sees me and actually recognizes what I am. I am the lion's glory, this pendant once associated with bringing glory to my wearers, but now it's almost like I still am considered doing that, but people are like, oh, it's a cursed glory. Like what's the point of being powerful if people are going to hate you, or if you're going to ruin lives and stuff. So definitely the perspective on me has shifted. One of them takes me up, and I think as soon as she puts me around her neck, I can feel the just absolute distaste. Like we don't like each other. She doesn't like what I represent, and I don't like that she is another rogue. She has no aspirations. She has no goals. She has no desire for order or pride or courage. She's disloyal. Like, she absolutely is the antithesis of what I represent. And so I think after being asleep for so long, the magic within me just bursts out, and it is this negative aura, such that her partner actually has to back away and out of the crypt to escape it. There is such negative, not negative charisma, but it's like the kind of presence this person now has as she's wearing me. It's like you don't trust her. It makes you question your relationship with her and her motives and everything. It's like these two are partners and they distrusted one another, but they were still willing to operate on the shared self-interest, right? But now it's like the other partner, she's just like, I feel like you're going to kill me so that you can keep all of this. So I'm going to kill you first. And that's exactly what she does. She kills her partner, and I think that kind of just like goes immediately back to like, consider how the keeper loses you. So let's choose from a table first. Yeah, you intentionally deceived or refused to help your keeper, leading to their demise. What took place and why did you act in that way? I think that's just exactly what I just described. And so after she was killed by her partner ran away. And let's see, artifact question. What did this solidify with me? The place you were created fills you with dread and you never wish to return. What is the root of this primeval fear? I think it's pretty clear that if like the negative experiences that have come with being worn by people who inherently like just don't jive with me or not akin to my purpose and my being, along with realizing that the people I have helped have not been appreciated and have actually like lost what they were gaining or like what they're trying to get after they've died. Because it's like the only person who really succeeded in what they wanted to do and to have that legacy continue was the righteous champion. But like the last of the tellers and the unifying warlord, both of them, like, they did their best and they achieved what they wanted in life, but it didn't last, like, at all. So what's the point of that? Why would I want to continue to be worn by somebody at all? Why would I want people to keep me? Even if I'm worn by somebody who shares my identity and my personality and has strong goals, what's the point if they can't even look beyond themselves? I think that's what I'm thinking now, which also ties back to the immortality question. Like, why are people so concerned with doing things while they're alive such that they don't think about what comes after? Like, I'm witnessing all of this. I'm the one experiencing what comes after. And you're not considering that at all. Why? It doesn't make any sense. So this keeper loses me rather quickly after they gain me. And I think the other treasure seeker runs away, just completely, leaves. And after that, wow. Okay. So the time for this resting period is now really long. It's like a millennium or centuries, a millennium, an age, an epoch. I don't even know how long an age or an epoch lasts. Like, those are all very contextual to me. And this would lead to my last keeper too, because we got 6 keepers. I think I'm going to go for, I totally forgot, because I picked a century or centuries before too. I need to choose one trait from Dust and Rust or Shifts and Currents, which are different tables like the ones I've been reading from. Oh, okay, yeah. So one of them, time reframes the actions of one of your keepers. One's considered a selfless hero, as immoral or mercenary. What happened and what actions are twisted or reinterpreted? I'm playing this game so like as intended, and I think I'm reaching exactly what the developer was aiming for. Since, just taking a look at the unifying warlord, like, that's exactly the story that I was thinking of, and it didn't take any prompting. So nice. Okay, for this last time of rest, then I'm going to choose an age, which is resting for 5 minutes. And then I choose once on Dust and Rust and Shifts and Currents tables. So I'll see you soon. Okay. I took a look at the Shifts and Currents table and the Dust and Rust table, and I've chosen 2 traits from there, 2 options. The first one is, your name passes into common speech as a phrase with a meaning somehow connected to your history. What is the expression and what does it come to mean? It definitely has to do with Lion's glory, and I think the essence of the phrase would basically be like, glory, but at what cost? Why be strong if strength doesn't last? Something like that. I'm not poetic enough to actually come up with something on the spot, but it would definitely have to do with how the aim of glory and pride and working towards a goal, a worthy goal, especially on a societal level, might end up breaking you or breaking society, or like might not even be worth it. Like, I think there's probably been a lot of chaos in the world lately, and so many, I'd say, 2 of the leaders that set up part of this world and this system, even in its ancient history, is like they had this pendant and like it helped them, but why does that even matter? Like, they're just dust anyway. It's very, very nihilistic in a way, which I think would really really disgust me. You know, I think part of the lion's glory, part of my identity is actually being very sincere in righteous ambition, in doing things that were right or needed to be done, and at least pursuing that with a sincerity. And I think with sincerity, like the worst thing you could do with that is to not take it seriously. And so now I think people definitely don't take that sort of thing seriously. And that would wound me for sure. Definitely hurt the ego. And honestly, question my identity too. It's like, well, if I am considered cursed for helping someone in their sincere ambitions, no matter how it turned out, what does that make me? You know, and the fact that they didn't even consider what would happen afterwards, like, what does that even mean? It's all a lot. It's a lot to think of over an age. Let's see. Gold and silver dull, iron rusts, colors fade to a sepulchral gray. What would your creators say if they saw you now? I think they would still treasure me. I think even if they couldn't restore me to my former glory, they would still have that symbolic sentimentality that goes with who I am and what they made me. And I think that would probably be a comfort in the face of the current era's nihilism. Which leads me to my last keeper. I'm going to say it's an archivist collector. They are observant, austere, and maniacally organized. They have collected the unregistered or unpermitted excavation of this ancient ruler. As much as she was reviled, this conquering, unifying warlord did actually unify all of these nobles for a significant amount of time, and for the first time in this nation's history. This nation has grown quite a lot, and they've reverted back to like independent nobles and city-states, but they do have a bit more of a centralized government where things of shared noble or national interest are, taken care of. And that probably wouldn't have happened if she hadn't shown that having some form of unity between all of the nobles was actually a good thing in some ways, at least bureaucratically and militarily. So they are currently, they're like the repo man. They're taking all of the items and artifacts that were found in this crypt and logging them and storing them in a national museum, because the people who are excavating this site did not do it with the proper permits, according to one noble or another. There's still quite a bit of political maneuvering going on, but that's not the archivist collector's concern, nor is it mine. Let's see, which of your former keepers are they keen to study? Well, definitely the unifying warlord. I think there's probably a particular interest in her coming from this archivist collector. And I think they probably would have put in a little bit of their own spin on the, oh, well, you didn't have the right permits sort of argument, so that they could actually handle these artifacts themselves. Such was their interest in the unifying warlord. All right, and then choosing again from neglect and mischief table. You were thrown carelessly atop a huge heap of treasure. There's another sentient item within the hoard. What did you learn from this other intelligence, and did you get along? Ah, yes, being stored in a museum's back rooms. That's probably the fate of most treasures. And I think it'd be very reasonable for there to be another sentient item found there. This was a shield, I'd say. Definitely much younger than I am, but they have a stylized version of my face. The lion with the mane of gold, that mane that emulates the sun's rays. And they were probably forged for the purpose of decoration. Maybe 2 or 3 generations after the unifying warlord, trying to once again create something akin to the lion's glory, because it still does have quite the revered name. And they had this created. It was decorative, it was ceremonial, and it was hung on a wall and just never really considered ever again. It wasn't ever used. So I think this sentient shield would share its history of emptiness and neglect and not having a purpose, which I think would shore up my own belief that even if other people don't appreciate what I provide and don't have the ambition anymore to use me, at least I was made by someone who did have that intention. At least I still retain that. I've been warned by a decent amount of people with ambitious aims, and I've helped them get to where they are, and I've punished those who didn't have that kind of motivation, that drive that aligned with my own values. So in that way, at least I'm consistent, and at least I had a purpose, and I developed my own identity that was strong and wasn't just neglected. It's time for the last artifact question. You were once given as a present to someone your keeper was madly in love with. They felt it was improper and returned you with a scornful retort. What made them feel that way? Well, probably this archivist collector had someone that they were eyeing and wanted to give me to them as a show of it's one of those things where they, if they had received me as a gift, they would have been ecstatic, so grateful, so excited. And so they think that because they would like it, the person they like would also like it, when in fact they completely read them wrong and they were completely rejected. The negative reputation that the lion's glory has is thrown right back in their face. It's why on earth would you give me this thing that doesn't even look nice, because it's caked with dust and grime and all of that. It's why would you even think of giving me this cursed thing that would be hey, go ahead and be ambitious, but it's going to bite you in the butt, and you're going to either ruin people's lives, or you're going to leave nothing behind except your own ruin. So I think it was completely rejected. And the archivist collector is just kind of left to wallow, I think, in their own self-pity. This is the one time they thought to be ambitious too, and it was totally thrown back in their face. I think they definitely hate me now, which is unfortunate, but also I don't think I particularly like this person one way or the other. I think because of that, the archivist collector probably doesn't throw me away. I think they recognize the historical value I have and just can't go against their value of that. And so they lock me in a drawer instead. I think that is my last keeper. Yeah. So after that, I think society just crumbles. I'm left to sit in this rotting wooden drawer as the rest of the museum burns around me and then just is left there. And I'm just lost until a jeweler comes. A traveling merchant jeweler. There is much ruin here now. The sands have etched away at this land that used to be, covered it completely. But through fate or chance, I end up in the hands of a gnomish man who takes me into his cart, puts me with the rest of the baubles and bits he's gathered, and takes me somewhere. I know not where yet, but eventually maybe I will have a new keeper, someone worthy to carry the lion's glory.
Happy April Fools! Haha, you thought you were getting a normal episode, but no, this is a compilation of solo play adventures. I'm going to be playing 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. I should say the caveat that I have never played this game before, and I'm really new to solo play games. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, so when I inevitably do something wrong, just, with that caveat, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to play this game and record it, and here you go, happy April Fools. Alright, so what I've done so far is I have created my vampire, Grace Bukia. She has 5 memory slots, which is like an inventory space, and you can put 3 experiences in each memory slot before it's full, and they have to be related. Her first memory slot says, the experience of, I am Grace Bukia, a tattoo artist at a local parlor. I often make friends with the people I give tattoos. And there's like a semicolon there. Each one has to be 1 sentence. Experience 2 is, driving away from Jim Wiley's house for the last time, I now avoid the street entirely. Memory 3 has the experience of, tassels sway on my leather purse when at a concert with Shelley, a friend I made by tattooing her. Memory 4 says, at home, I got a text from Liam, my boss, saying no work tomorrow due to snow. And Memory 5 was befriending Arthur Cedillo and tattooing him with the face of his Grace, his mortal friend. He gifted me, Grace, with a peony tattoo on my wrist, and then bit Grace to turn her into a vampire on her wrist. Those are my 5 starting memories. The idea of this game is that I'm going to completely forget all of those things about my mortal life by the end of this game, and I will have become some twisted murderous fiend. So let's get there. How we get there is that we're going to roll a d6 and a d10. I subtract the d6 from the d10, so if I roll a 10 and a 6, 10 minus 6 is 4, and I would progress 4 steps. I'm imagining this is like chutes and ladders, like a linear walkway. Each of these spaces has a different prompt. The prompts might potentially cause me to check one of my skills. Once a skill has been checked, it can't be used again. An unchecked skill represents a skill you are capable of, and a checked skill represents one that you have used. My skills are tattooing, aseptic technique, and retouching bad art into good art. The prompts also might direct me to lose or gain a resource. I start the game with 3 resources. 1, Grace owns her own home. 2, Grace owns her own car. And 3, Grace has a cool leather purse with tassels. She can associate those 3 items with 3 people that she knows. She owns her own home, and that connects to her receiving a text in her home saying, no work tomorrow due to snow, from Liam, the boss, that generally does a good job of operating a professional tattooing parlor. Her car, she thinks about driving away from her ex-boyfriend, Jim Wiley's house, and how she now avoids that entire street. Just like, no, let's not drive down there. That brings back bad memories. And the cool leather purse with tassels makes her think about her friend, Shelley. She met Shelley by tattooing her, and now they go to concerts together and do stuff, and they're really good friends. And those are her 3 mortal friends. So I have 3 mortal friends, 3 skills, and 3 resources to start the game. As I progress in the game, if I need to remove a skill and I have none left, I can remove one resource instead. And vice versa, if I need to remove a resource and I have none left, I can remove one skill instead. If I have no resources and no skills and am entirely out of both and I need to remove one, then I lose. My vampire dies. That would be bad. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm going to do the best I can and hope that that doesn't happen and that I can make it through all 1,000 years in this game, 1,000-Year Vampire. So let's start the game. The general idea is that I have one immortal friend, and that is the person who turned me into a vampire. That immortal friend is Arthur Cedillo. He is immortal and he made Grace into a vampire. The story goes that I was tattooing a person and I got quite chatty with them and befriended them, and this person was getting a face of a person named Grace tattooed on them. And this person had passed of old age, and he seemed very sad about it. And I was like, "Oh, is that your grandma?" And he was like, "No, that was not my grandma. Her name was Grace." And I'm like, "Oh, my name was Grace." And then he was like, "This is destiny. I will offer to you what I offered to her." And she refused. "Would you like to be a vampire?" And so Grace says yes. She gives him the tattoo of his Grace, and he gives her a bite mark that she covers with a peony tattoo on her wrist. She is now a vampire, and the story begins. I have one immortal friend, 3 mortal friends, 5 memories with 1 experience each. Each memory spot can hold 3 experiences. I have 1 permanent mark, a peony wrist tattoo / bite mark. And I have 3 skills and 3 resources. Will I make it to 1,000 years? Let's find out in this actual play of 1,000-Year Vampire. I am flipping to prompt 1. Prompt 1 says, "In your blood hunger, you destroy someone close to you." Oh. Kill a mortal character. Oh. Take the skill Bloodthirsty. I'm writing down Bloodthirsty on my skills list. And I'm rolling a dice to see, because I don't want to just pick one. That would feel bad. So I'm going to roll on the dice. 1 and 2 is Jim Wiley, the ex-boyfriend. 3 and 4 is Shelley Schumer, my former customer turned close friend. And 5 and 6 is Liam Johnson, my boss. That's a 4. Shelley, no, my one true friend. Oh, that's a bummer. I'm going to cross you out. Oh. And now I tell a story about how that happened. I went over to see Shelley because I was like, "Hey, Shelley, I turned into a vampire. Check out my cool peony tattoo on my wrist. Do you want to become a vampire too?" And she was like, "Sure." And then I started to turn her and she just tasted so good that I kept eating and she died. That's bad. That's really bad. Do we go over what I do with the body book? What's going on here? I'm okay. All right. Well, officially what I'm supposed to do next is roll a d6 and a d10. And write down that happened. I'm going to put that experience under memory spot 3. Right after the Shelley memory, killed Shelley is the new one. So now that memory spot 3 has 2 experiences in there. And remember, there's a maximum of 3 experiences per memory spot. And keep going. I rolled a 4 on the d10 and a 6 on the d6, which means I got a negative number. You can't move past the first, negatively past the first space, so I take the second prompt on the first space, which is, it's going really well, you guys. It's going great. Okay. You are overwhelmed by panic and maul someone close to you, accidentally turning them into a monster like yourself. Convert a beloved mortal character into an enemy immortal, and take the skill Ashamed. Great. Okay, I'm going to roll. 1, 2, and 3 is Jim Wiley, and 4, 5, and 6 is Liam Johnson, my boss. That's a 4. Oh, thank goodness. So I show up to work and I'm like, "I'm fine. Nothing bad happened. I definitely didn't get rid of a body last night. Everything's cool," but I'm twitching. And my boss is like, "Hey, Grace, you look weird today. What's wrong? Did you have fun with Shelley at that concert?" And I'm like, Shelley, yes, she's alive. And he's like, "Yeah, of course she's alive. What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And then I'm like, "Oh, you smell like blood too." And then, so I'm gonna write immortal, but enemy because he didn't want to be one. Whoops. Immortal, former boss, also good at tattooing. I'm gonna add that experience as the second experience under spot 4. I have a boss. And then second experience, turned boss into enemy immortal. Yeah, that went well. And now I have the skill ashamed. Okay, let's roll the dice again. This is going great, guys. My D10 is a 6. Okay. And my D6 is... Okay, all right, that's not a 6. It's hard to read. D6 is a 2. So that means 6 minus 2 is a 4. I can move forward 4 spaces. I go to prompt 5. Prompt 5. Yay. Oh no. What? Okay. Prompt 5. You murder someone you love or respect rather than let them expose you. Kill a character. Gosh, I have like no characters left except for Jim Wiley. I don't even have to roll for this. Sorry. I guess what happened was he wanted me back and he came over and he was like, hey. And I was disposing of Shelley's body. And he was like, oh no, you're a monster. I'm going to report you to the police. And then I apparently killed a character rather than let them expose you. I'm going to cross him out. Well, gosh, this did not work out well for the people who knew me, like immediately. Okay. Gonna record that one as the second experience in memory spot number 2. Check a skill. I'm going to check Bloodthirsty so I can stop using that. Stop that. Stop that. There. Bloodthirsty is checked. Let's roll again. The D10 is a 5. Awesome. Awesome. I'm being sarcastic. That's not awesome. That's negative. And okay. There we go. The D6 is a 2 again. So that means I move forward 3 more spaces. Yes, let's get into where I am settled and not bloodthirsty as much. Look at me, like naively thinking that the further I go down this path, the easier it'll be to balance my vampiric bloodlust. And what else is there? Something else to balance it with. I'm sure it's just going to get worse the further I go, but I'm still rooting for it. Okay, so I progressed 3. I went from 5 to 8. The prompt on 8 on this Choose Your Own Demise book is, you are recognized for what you are by another creature like yourself. Create an immortal character. Lose a resource and gain a skill. What did you lose to them? So the story goes that I was alone because my friend is dead, and walking through a park at night because the sun, it burns my vampiric skin. And I was holding the leather purse with its leather fringe. I was stroking the leather fringe sadly, thinking about the friend that I had tried to turn into a vampire but accidentally killed. And as I was walking through the park at night, I walked past a white-haired woman with ears as wide as the horizon. And I looked in her face, and she looked in my face, and her nostrils flared, like she smelled me, and she, like, recognized me. And nervously, I said, real leather can be told by its smell, can't it? Trying to cover for myself, trying to falsely brag about this purse. I was so nervous that as I skittered away like the creature of the night that I am, I dropped the purse, but I didn't go back for it. I was just like, gotta get out of here. She definitely recognized me. Now this silver-haired, wide-eared person who looked pretty strange themselves has my purse, and that's not good because that has my address in it with one of my ID cards. It says I gain a skill. What skill did I gain? Fast running? There we go. I accidentally unlocked super vampiric speed, and it turns out I can run faster than a star athlete. Who'd have thunk it? You only find that sort of stuff out when the adrenaline kicks in. So fast running, that's great. I'm trying to look on the bright side of life. Let's roll another D10. That's a 6, and the D6 is a 3, so I'm going to advance 3 spaces from 8 to 11. It says, how do you find solace from the raging hunger within you? You may lose one checked or unchecked skill. I would like to lose bloodthirsty because the way that I find solace is by eating a lot of ice cream drizzled with cow blood. Girl's got to have her ice cream, you know. I have lost the bloodthirsty one, and I'm visiting my local butcher, and I'm being like, I gotta cook my traditional dishes of lots of blood. Thank you, butcher friend. And then I put it on ice cream, which, chocolate covers the taste of everything, don't you know? You can really just put chocolate on anything, and it'll mostly taste like chocolate. And that's how I'm coping with my life. Let's roll another D10. That's a 2. This is bad. This is going to go negative. That's a 3 on the D6. I go back by 1. I go down to 10. Okay. 10. The stars pinwheel above you in the night. Yeah, that makes sense. The ice cream with blood topping probably isn't working super great. Okay, I'll keep reading. The stars pinwheel above you in the night. The seasons are a blur. You are as an automaton, unconscious of the passage of decades. Am I still working for my enemy boss? Does that mean... Yeah, I think I am. Okay. We run the best tattoo parlor in town. Hundreds of years of experience. Because a century passes. Strike out a memory. Strike out all mortal characters. Well, there weren't any mortal characters left. I already took care of those. But if I could strike out a memory, it would definitely be killing the ex-boyfriend. So that one's gone. Yeah, I don't even remember that. Gosh, that was just so long ago. I'm better. Yeah, I'm better now. I still work for an enemy immortal boss. How enemy is this? Is this like tongue-in-cheek comedy enemy where like, haha, my boss hates me because I made him immortal? Or is it like every day I dodge bullets trying to work because, you know, you still got to pay property taxes. You'll never get out of property taxes. Did you know? Still got to work. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's do another prompt. Rolling a d10. That's a 7. Whoo-wee. Let's make some progress. Oh, it's a 6. Darn it. Okay, we're back to 11. I've been here before. I'm going to read the second prompt. There's 3 prompts at every location. Second prompt at position 11. You discover an internal focus which lets you maintain control of your vampire self. Lose a violent memory. Capital M. That's one of them memory spots. Oh, like killing Shelly. Okay. Lose a violent memory. Scratched out. That's gone. So is all my memory of Shelly, though. That's... And take the skill, I control the beast. Okay. I control the beast. I'm writing that down. And rewrite any unchecked skill as something new. Wait, what? Oh, okay. I can rewrite any unchecked skill. So like ashamed, I can rewrite that as something else. Okay, instead of ashamed, I'm going to write... Maybe I should write like investor, right? So that I don't have to do a day job all the time. Even just a small percentage compounded over a super long time would mean that I could be free of the rat race. So that's something positive. I'm going to write investor down as one of my skills. What new name do you take to distance yourself from what you once were? How is the name symbolic? So I was Grace, and I'm going to go with Peony. Maybe I'll be Grace's granddaughter, Peony. I'm going to write that down. In memory spot 1, experience 2, name equals Peony. Great. I'm Grace's granddaughter, Peony. Totally. And my boss and I have been enemies for 100 years. I can't even imagine what that sitcom would look like. I've just made one of the worst things on TV. No, we're not famous, but if we were, that would be pretty bad. Okay, so gonna roll the d10 again. That's a 6. And then a 1 on the d6. I can go forward 5 spaces to number 16. I went from 11 to 16. Some mortals have banded together to hunt you. Well, that is just rude. Well armed and wise to your tricks, how do you defeat or evade them? Create a mortal hunter related to one of your checked skills and then check a skill. The story that I've come up with for this prompt is her name is Tragedy, and it is spelled Tragedieigh. She is a Schumer, no relation, or like not a direct descendant from Shelley Schumer. And Tragedy Schumer is a mortal hunter. She got a lot of bad art retouched into good art, coming back into the tattoo parlor each time, and noticed that I wasn't aging, and this upset her because she is aging. And she asked to be made into a vampire, and I was like, I'm not a vampire. And she was like, you lying tattoo artist, I know you're a vampire. Make me younger. And I'm like, well, okay, look, you wouldn't get younger for sure. You'd just be wrinkly forever. And that was really not the right thing to say. She did not like that. So she now hunts me. And she's pretty good at hunting me. So what I had to start doing was wearing these wigs and makeup. And I'm going to check my retouching bad art into good art skill. because I'm using that art skill to apply to like my makeup every day. And I go by different names now. And my boss, who is my enemy, just will tell her that it's me every time she gets into that tattoo parlor. Tragedy walks in and she's like, I've got a steak and I've come to kill, what's my name now? Peony. Oh no, it's working. I've forgotten. I've come to kill Peony, says Tragedy. And my boss, Liam, who's just so upset, he still hasn't left the rat race and he's just part of this forever and he's really mad at me for it. And he says, she's right there. She's wearing the blue wig today and she's going by like this other name. And Tragedy's like, all right, like smacks the steak to her hand a few times, menacingly, and approaches me. And I'm like, oh no, it's her again. You're still wrinkly, I shout as I run out of the tattoo parlor. Hopefully my investments start paying off so that I can leave this hostile workplace. I'm going to roll a D10 and a D6, and that is the first experience in memory spot number 2, which is empty now that I forget killing Jim. See? It's working out. I rolled a 7 and a 3, which means I advance 4 spaces to spot 20. 20 says, there is a great shift in the way society moves goods. How does this work to your advantage? Check a skill, create a skill based on a memory. I am seizing this opportunity to check my investor skill and to create a skill based on a memory. I am creating entrepreneur, but like not just any entrepreneur, phone app investor entrepreneur. And the story goes that so this is based on the memory of being at home, getting a text from Liam, my boss, saying no work tomorrow due to snow. That means that when I'm home, I often am scrolling on my phone, as one does. And I've played all the games that there are on my phone. So I'm like, oh, there's nothing left to do. So I start learning about finance and, I'm checking my investor skill and changing it to entrepreneur, because as the great shift in the way society moves goods happens, as like we switch to warehouses with these like drone distributions, I'm like, I'm going to invest in that, because if it pays off, maybe I can stop working. That'd be great. And that is what happens. I invest early in Amazon. There is a great shift in the way society moves goods. This works to my advantage because I can finally quit my day job and get out of that tattoo parlor where Tragedy is hunting me. So that's nice. And in fact, I can rent out this property that I've been living in this whole time, which does have 2 bodies that I have forgotten about buried underneath it. So I can finally move out of this property, which for some reason it had been a bit haunted and like stuff had been falling off my shelves and tripping me, like the rug would kink just in the right way for it to trip me. And I'm like, you were smooth moments ago. What is happening? So the buried bodies of my murdered friends that I've forgotten about have been haunting me in this house. And I have now rented it out as a rental property and moved into my first mansion. Yay! And that is prompt 20. Let's roll again. Hey, it's all coming up daisies for me, right? That's a 4 and a 2. I can advance 2 spaces. I go to 22. Woo! Create a mortal character. You have shaped them from infancy to be exactly what I want. Lose a resource. Her name is Navia. I didn't name her. Obviously, I'm an immortal vampire. I can't reproduce. However, she was named by like a younger mom, and like a teen mom. And so her full name is Navia a Miracle. You do not want to know how that is spelled. And she really needed like, like what's that mentor program where like adults mentor people who receive terrible names from their absent parents. And yeah, like big brothers, big sisters. Yeah, that's it. And so she needed a mentor and extra food because her parent just forgot to feed her. So I fed her. I had a lot of ice cream. That helped. And I had a mansion. So I let her like not starve. And I created a mortal character and I shaped them from infancy to be exactly what I wanted. I lose a resource, which is that home that I used to have. I just give that to her. And I'm like, hey kid, your life was hard enough. Here's a house now that you're 18. Wow, doesn't time fly? Why don't you like go to that local college and do something with your life? I'll pay for your college. And it makes me realize that I care about the future. And maybe if we educate the next generation, life will be better? ? I say while I eat my blood-covered chocolate ice cream in front of the TV at night. Yeah, life would be better if we educated everyone. And I think what I start is a scholarship program for all the people who want to go to college and like, or who want to get trained in a skill, like a trade school or like a college. And Navia is the first one, of course. But then like I start like a public housing project so that they can like live somewhere for free and go to classes and not have to pay anything because they're just starting out in life. So of course they don't have the money to pay for that. And it shouldn't be their responsibility. Yes, it does cost me most of my savings. I just have my mansion. I don't have my rental properties anymore. I'm writing this down as the second experience in Memory Spot 3. The first one is I invested early in Amazon, and the second was I immediately spent all that money on student housing and scholarships and Navia. So I'm up a little bit. I don't have to do my day job anymore, but I'm not like a billionaire. You don't really reach billionaire status if you improve the world around you. What's that about? So I'm going to roll again. Roll in a D10 and a D6, and both are 3s. That means it cancels out, and I am still on spot number 22. Doing the second prompt now. It says, my diary is lost or stolen. Lose the... Oh, yeah, that's right. I could have been converting these memories of killing Shelly and Jim into permanent diary memories. Wonder why I didn't do that. Anyway, so if you want in this game, you can convert your memory spots into physical storage in a diary. And I was going to do that for any memory that I wanted to hold on to, but the only memories I've gotten rid of so far are horrible ones that I don't want to remember. So this one doesn't really affect me. So it says, if you have no diary, lose 1 resource. No. Okay, I'd rather lose the diary and all the memories it contains. Well, okay. I'm going to lose a resource. I'm down to my last resource of my car. My classic 100-year-old beater car finally bites the dust, and I'm now out of resources. Create a character who you wrongly blame for this loss. It's one of the students. You know, I was being too kind to this student, Carter Johnson. And yes, he is a blood relation to Liam Johnson. And I was like, I know you. Sort of like a Snape Harry Potter moment where I was like, I knew your parents and I didn't like them and I'm not going to like you. And then one day my car is missing. And, you know, Carter did it. He totally did it. Yeah, I wrongly blame him for this loss. I say to him, I hope you like my classic 100-year-old car, Carter. Carter. I know what you did. Carter. And he just looks at me like the most innocent look on his face, but I won't be fooled. He holds a grudge. His whole family does against me because I turned their great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, who's the same age as them, into their immortal forever patriarch. And he's been a real jerk to all of them, and they all blame me for that. I don't know. I think Liam's probably a cool guy to everyone except for me. I take it back. But anyway, I don't know that. I'm just... See, there's what Peony thinks, and then there's the truth. And Peony is a little bit wrong about this. So I'm going to roll a d10. That's a 9 and a 4 on the d6. So that means I advance 5 spaces from 22 to 27. Wars rage throughout the region in which you reside. Oh no, but I just started like a scholarship program for students. You withdraw into a hidden retreat, waiting for them to pass. Lose a resource. That is bad because I do not have any resources, so I'm going to have to lose a skill or die. Yikes. What do I lose? I have my phone app investor entrepreneur. I have I control the beast. I have fast running. I have aseptic technique, and I have tattooing. You know, it's been a really long time since I've tattooed anything. Ooh, do I lose that? Oh gosh, I do. It's been like 100 years since I worked in a tattoo parlor. But I keep my aseptic technique because, you know, I mean, war. I probably am using it to like help people and slurp off of their wounds. I wonder if I can still get cow blood during a war. That's an interesting question. Well, anyway, so I'm going to write this down. Writing this down is going to be a little bit rough. I don't really have room. What was that about diaries? I can hold up to 4 memories. It's a physical object added to my resource list. It can be lost. I can have 1 diary at a time, create it when I need to move a memory into it. After transferring something into the diary, the memory can't have new experiences added to it. So if I move the tragedy art retouching, since I don't work there anymore, I don't really need to remember what she looks like, and she's probably much older now and even more wrinkly. So I'm going to move that to a diary. Yeah, and that'll give me a resource, which is really nice. Diary of Tragedy. There we go. That's on my resource list. And then in memory spot 2, I will put my war, I guess. Yeah. All right. War. Remember that war? Yeah. And then it says lose a resource. So, oh, I actually, wait, can I? I already scratched off tattooing, so I'm not going to cheat, but I would definitely forget tragedy instead of losing tattooing in the future. Okay. So, next one. Let's roll a d10 and a d6. That is a 4 and a 1. I advanced 3 spots. I'm at 30. What social mores have you forgotten? Lose a checked skill. I am looking at my skills list, and it does look like I have a check mark. Now, I don't know if I've done this right or not, but I have a check mark next to retouching bad art into good art and next to investor. I would like to lose retouching bad art into good art. It's been a long time since I've tattooed anything. I add as my second experience in the war that, so this is memory slot 2, experience 2, is that I totally forget how to retouch bad art into good art. I've seen so many designs across the years, and I've seen bad art, good art, that it's all circled back, and my enjoyment of the thing has become completely independent of how good or bad the art is. And now I just enjoy art for its own sake, which I can't explain or justify in any way. Like when you watch a really bad movie and you're like, I enjoyed that. And then you watch a really good movie and you're like, I enjoyed that. And you like them both. And then you know that one of them you don't recommend to other people. But you start to forget why after a long time. Yeah, I have forgotten how to retouch bad art into good art because I have too much art experience and it's all entertaining in its own way. I'm going to roll that dice. A 6 and a 1. That takes me 5 places further on this Chutes and Ladders game. From 30 to 35. Woo! I encounter the descendant of an old foe and I help them in some way. Why did I do this? Check a skill. Create a mortal character. Well, considering how we're in the middle of a war right now, that's an easy one. I bump into Carter Johnson again, who is related to Liam, my old foe. He is mortal, so he has aged somewhat. It's been like 5 years since the war started, and he is no longer a student. And I bump into him, and I'm like, I blame you for the loss of my car. And he's like, coughs up blood because we were having a normal conversation, but the shrapnel, which was fine for me, I'm immortal, I'm a vampire, has pierced his important human organs. And with my aseptic technique that I learned as a tattoo artist and has been just like ingrained in me because I did it for so many years, even though I haven't done it for a long time and I hardly remember being a tattoo artist anymore, I quickly patch him up and I prevent the problems with human organs that he's experiencing because of this shrapnel, and I save his life. So that is experience spot 2 in memory slot 2. Experience spot 3 in memory spot 2. That's a full memory. Aseptic technique. Saved Carter Johnson. And then I think to myself, Liam, if you could see me now, if I hadn't been turned into an immortal, I wouldn't be here right now to have saved your descendant. Haha, because, Liam might have had kids before he was turned into a vampire. It's that kind of descendant. And so I'm not with Liam right now, but if I was, I'd be like, see, and that would be how that sitcom brick fell back down from earlier. But anyway, so we're going to roll that dice again. A 2 on the D10 and a 3 on the D6. I'm going to go back 1 to 34. I destroy something important to me in a purposeless rage. Oh, why did I do that? Lose a precious memory or destroy a resource. That diary with tragedy? Whoops, I lost it. I destroyed something so precious to me. Cough, cough. So basically I chucked that diary of tragedy in the trash, and that is prompt 34. I destroyed something important to me in a purposeless rage. Lose a precious memory or destroy a resource. I'm going to add that to spot number 3 in memory spot 5. Memory spot 5, oh my gosh, experience 1 is befriending Arthur Cedillo and tattooing him with the face of his friend Grace, his mortal friend, and he gifted me, Grace, with a peony and bit me on the wrist and turned me into a vampire, which promptly resulted in the deaths of my mortal friends. That was not great. And experience 2 in Memory Spot 5 was being recognized by a certain white-haired person at night in the park. That's Gianna. And Memory Spot 3 is that I lost the tragedy diary. That's such a tragedy that all of that is going to become the new diary, brand new resource, diary of people I don't care about. People I don't care about. Yeah, there we go. You know, I'm quite enjoying being a vampire so far. I have Memory Spot 5 all cleared out for some new memories. Let's roll a d10. And a d6. That's an 8 and a 2. I progress 6 spots. That feels like quite the progress. So from 34 all the way up to 40. 40 says, how do you conceal yourself while you sleep? What steps have you taken for protection? Check a skill and create a resource. Create a mortal servant character if you like. Ooh, I would love that. I think it would be kind of ironic if the mortal servant character is Tragedy, because I have forgotten her. And it has been like 20 years, so I don't recognize her anymore. I mean, I forgot her like 10 years ago, and it's been 10 years after that. So it's Tragedy Schumer, who is my servant. And I'm going to check the skill I Control the Beast, because indeed, it is my vampiric nature that has gotten me this servant character. And the resource I'm going to create is a resource that Tragedy is going to give me to try to talk me into becoming like the sort of vampire who makes other people vampires, even though that really didn't work out for me the first time. And I still do remember Liam Johnson becoming an enemy immortal and how that bugged me for 100 years. So I'm still not that kind of vampire that turns people into vampires with me. So she's going to give me a thing that is she's going to try to talk me into it. And it's going to be very valuable. Let's see. She gives me a pile of gold, right? Yeah, she gives me a pile of gold. It's in coin format, and I sleep on it at night like a dragon. And how do I conceal myself while I sleep? I bury myself in a pile of gold. That would block out the light. Yeah. How did she get that pile of gold? Who is behind her pulling the strings? Too afraid to approach me, the bloodthirsty vampire, on their own? What is steering this puppet? Who is the puppet master giving me the pile of gold? I don't know. We'll find out in a future adventure. Let's roll again. That's a -3. Wow, I go back to 37. Things fall to dust. Lose a resource for which you have no corresponding memory. Do not create a new experience for this prompt. It simply happens as you stare in silence. Wow. Okay, I lost that diary of people I don't care about. But hey, I didn't have to create an experience for that one, which is good because I'm kind of full on like 2 of those. Oh, hey, I lost a diary, which means I can okay, perfect timing actually. Okay, so spot 1 is my name is Peony. I haven't scratched that one out for some reason. Spot 2 is the war, and that I forgot how to retouch bad art into good art, and that my aseptic technique saved Carter Johnson. Spot 3 is that I invested early in Amazon and gave Navia a scholarship and set up student housing. Spot 4 is the Liam boss becoming my enemy immortal, and then Carter Johnson, I blame him for the car. I think that's the one I'm going to transfer to the memory. There we go. So that's now a diary of Liam being an enemy immortal, and me blaming Carter for the car. There we go. Those 3 are gone, and spot 4 is open again. Look at that. I totally forget whatever reason it was that I wasn't turning people into vampires. What reason was that? I don't know. I've forgotten. So I've transferred that into a diary. Or wait, no, I don't forget it because it's in a diary. I don't forget it until I lose that diary. That's how that works. Well, I've never lost a diary before. Looks at lists of 2 scratched off diaries. I'm sure I'll remember my reasons for not turning people into vampires going forward. Okay, rolling a dice. This is kind of fun. It's a 5 and a 1, so that means 5 minus 1. I go forward 4 spaces, 37. Plus 4 is 41. My body is distant from human concerns. Lose a memory slot. Erase your oldest extant name. Lose a memory slot. Oh no. Wait, but I need 5. I liked having 5. No, this is bad. This is bad. Okay, 1 is gone. Oh, darn. Goodbye, 1. Wow. Here's some bad news. My current name was also in that memory slot. It had experience 1. I'm Grace. What was my last name? Bukia. I don't remember anymore. And experience 2 is my new name is Peony. Oh no, I gotta okay, so I have to erase that whole slot and then I have to make a new experience for this. So I go to Tragedy, my servant, and I'm like, your master needs a new name for a new era. What do you think the kids are called these days? And Tragedy, the old woman at this point, with her puppet master, and the puppet master's like, really? And Tragedy's like, yeah, that's what she said. I don't know. She's losing it. She must be really old. And the puppet master says, tell her that the kids nowadays are going by Skibbity. Skibbity is the most popular name for girls nowadays. You will fit right in. Let's see how much of her we can manipulate and how dumb she is. And Tragedy and the boss, I don't know what the boss is yet, but Tragedy and the boss, the puppet master, they cackle. And they're like, if she accepts the name Skibbity, we will know that she is really too far gone. And for 41, I'm going to write name equals Skibbity because I don't know. I don't stay up on the references. I'm not hip. So my name is now Skibbity. I'm gonna roll the dice. I got a 10 and a 2, so I'm gonna progress 8. I'm gonna go up to 49. And the vampire named Skibbity reads, what simple practical skill proves invaluable in your strange existence? How did you learn it? Create a skill. Aha! I know exactly what I know exactly what skill is important. I learn how to browse TikTok and whatever the kids are watching nowadays. So I write down for 49. This is my third experience in memory spot 5. Memory spot 1 has been burned to the ground, so we're really low on those. Anyway, is that I watch TikTok and I learn from TikTok that Skibbity is not a name. I go to Tragedy angrily, the old lady, and I say, you're behind the times. You're too old. I need a younger servant. And without learning about the puppet master, I fire Tragedy. And that means I do give her back her pile of gold because that's only fair. So technically, pile of gold is one of my resources. I guess, I don't want to lose a resource. What do I do? Do I just change resources? Yeah, I think thematically that's okay. Right, because the game is about numbers, not about identities. So I'm going to change it from pile of gold to lake house because I did always want a lake house. On a lake, wouldn't that be nice? You can go inside when the awful sun is out, and then at nighttime you can go swimming. That would be nice. Okay, so I switch from my method of light concealment from sleeping inside a giant pile of gold like a dragon to instead sleeping in a lake house with the curtains drawn and complete and utter solitude because I can't trust people, and instead I just watch TikTok on my phone all day. It's not a bad life. All right. Rolling again. That's a -1. I go down to 48. You awaken covered in dust. Generations have passed. Your sleeping place has been sealed off. How do you escape? Lose a resource. Strike out all mortal characters. Oh, no. All right, I'm scratching off that lake house because I fell asleep for too long. Gosh, and the whole lake, dried up, and everybody stopped visiting my lake because of climate change. And my whole lake house is just like a pile of sticks, and the thing that woke me up was finally a little bit of sunlight grazed me, and I was like, whoa, I'm awake now because the whole ceiling has come down around me, and the ceiling finally got exposed to air with the elements, and so I was like, oh, what a good nap that was. I'm going to cross off all these mortal characters. Novia, I hope you changed the world for the good, my student friend, although that war might have stopped you. Carter, I hope you made it to the end of your life. And Tragedy, she was pretty close to that already. Cross her off. Wow, the only people left on my list are Liam Johnson, my immortal boss, Arthur Cedillo, who made me, and then some lady that I met with silver hair. It's been a long time since I've seen her. So I'm going to make a memory in spot 4 that says 100 years past. Lost Lake House. Rolling a dice again. An 8 and a 3. I think I progressed 5 spaces, which from a 48 is 53. A mortal character you trusted or one of their descendants leads a hunting party. What shared secrets are being used against you? Check a skill. Well, it's got to be their descendants because, wow, how did that happen? I just literally woke up out of a lake house. You guys are seriously this mad at me? I just woke up. What did I do wrong? This is the problem when you don't know the times and then you dead name someone and you're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. You changed, you didn't tell me. And then you can't sleep for 100 years. Don't do that. You'll lose out on all the fashion trends that are changing. You just did something out of fashion. I stepped out from my lake house into town and I immediately said something horrible and everybody grabbed their pitchfork and their torch and chased me. All right. It is unfortunately the descendant of Nevea. It is Sally a Miracle. The shared secrets being used against me are things like my preferences and what I looked like, how to recognize me, even if I changed my name. And that's not great. That's very not great. And I checked my fast running skill because how I got out of there was I basically was just oh, I'm surrounded. I'm going to run really fast and get out of here. And then they weren't able to keep up with me. And that's the only way I survived. So Sally, a Miracle, is hunting me, which is super a bummer because your ancestor liked me. So sad. But that's what happens when you play the game telephone. The information gets twisted over time. I'm going to make that memory spot 4, experience 2, number 53. Sally, a Miracle, is hunting me. I rolled again, and I got a 9 overall, so I'm progressing from 53 up to 62. I realized that some ancient taboo or limitation I long believed in no longer applies. What circumstances prompted this discovery? How does this make your existence more satisfying? Change one checked or unchecked skill in a way that's relevant. Well, that's good. So I've emerged from the lake house ruins 100 years later, immediately made a faux pas and got some people hunting me, which is a bummer, and then was like, hey, this world is a little bit cooler than it used to be. This ancient taboo or limitation that I long believed in no longer applies, and that is everyone has a Google Lens type glasses, and everyone can project or set other people's glasses to their preference of appearance. So I'm going to change my TikTok skill of filters to now I can project what I want to look like. It's like virtual reality. What do they call that? Augmented reality, like Pokemon Go when you can see a Pikachu on the lawn when there isn't one. And it's like a filter on your face, like a Snapchat filter. Except that with everyone wearing these glasses all the time, you can interact with so much more than is there physically. And you can set the settings of other people's glasses to be like, I have makeup on, even though you didn't put makeup on. Or whatever you want to look like. So I project what I want to look like. And that is probably with a different tattoo every day. Whoa, the future's so cool. I'm going to cross out my war memories because I just don't want those anymore. And memory spot 2 is going to say 62 Google Lens makeup. I'm going to roll again. I advanced by 4. The difference was 4, so I go to 66. My knowledge is outmoded. Lose an unchecked skill, which is now useless. Looks at list of skills. I only have 2 unchecked skills. My phone app investor entrepreneur and my recently gained one, TikTok, project what I want to look like. Yeah, that makes sense that my ability to invest in things as on a phone app is probably not going to be useful 100 years later. Lose an unchecked skill, which is now useless. So I'm going to just cross that off entirely. Yeah, that makes sense. Good job storytelling with the good job 1,000-year-old vampire. All right, I'm going to roll. Oh, I have to read a memory for that. That's going to be, I cross out invested early in Amazon and Navia and scholarship and student housing from memory spot 3. I totally forget that. And I'm going to write 66, experience 66, phone app investor skills useless. Although in real life, no skill is ever completely useless. You know, you can always cross-apply your knowledge to another field. So, but let's just say phone app investor skills, no phone apps anymore. Now people have these like Google Lens glasses things. You know, they're not tapping on their screen, so to speak. Okay, we're going to roll again. I got a 7 and a 1, which means I progressed 6. I'm now at 72. Ooh, we're getting close to the end. I am what? We're getting closer to the end than I realized. So I knew there were 80 prompts, right? And so I was like, oh, 72, that's close to the end. But do you know what 72 is? 72, I am caught outside and destroyed. What happened? The game is over. Man, what happened is that Sally, a miracle, the mortal hunting me, the descendant of Navia, a miracle, the girl I raised to be exactly what I thought was a good person, right? Man, her descendant sniped me in the back when I was just walking down the street at night, doing like I normally do, walking in the park at night because I killed my only friend as I tried to make her an immortal. Dang, that ended so much faster than I thought it would. Like, I mean, it was getting kind of long in the tooth. I kind of wanted it to end, but like I thought I'd get to 80. What the heck? I had this whole plan of like, I was going to witness Gianna and like meet her a few times. That's the immortal, that's Sadie's mom that I bumped into who recognized me as a vampire. I was going to meet Sadie as a baby, and then I was going to end with Sadie not recognizing me. Man, that did not work out how I planned. Okay, well, what a long life I led as an immortal vampire. What was the point of that? I feel kind of bad for tragedy, honestly. Like, I kind of wish that I had turned her into a vampire. I think me being named Skibbity was probably the best part, though. Yeah, so I killed Shelly trying to turn her. I killed Jim. I made my boss Liam immortal. I saved his descendant. After blaming him for stealing my car, I saved his life with my aseptic technique. I invested early in Amazon. I started a student scholarship for Navia. I improved the world, but then it all burned down in a war. Just lived peacefully at a lake house for 100 years, and by the time I emerged, I was so far out of things that my faux pas offended the people around me, and they shot me in the back. Dang. Well, at least the world seems to be doing okay. It's not in a war anymore. And okay, the lake is gone, but they have Google Lens makeup, so that makes up for it. They can probably just see a lake wherever they want. No, wait, that's dangerous. Well, that was 1,000-year-old vampire. Some time passed. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope you play it yourself. There's a whole bunch here that I did not play. There's like 3 prompts for every single one. And you can see that I didn't even hit everyone. I feel like you would have a different journey every time you played this. There's so much to do. And there's like appendices. To let you know, like I was on page 72 was prompt. That was page 72. That's like, there's 40 more pages after this of additional content in this game. Wow, there's so much. Alternate prompts. I'm scrolling through right now. Additional prompts by various people who contributed. Yeah, there's like a lot here. So you can definitely, I understand solo plays now. You can definitely play through this, like, yeah, weird places, legends, hunters, marks, weirdos. Cool. So if you like this, give it a try. You'll have your own experience, and it seems like it'll be a lot of fun. Try out 1,000-year-old vampire. Give it a go. Happy April Fools!